Welcome to Mental Millennials with your host, Shelby Friesen.
Welcome back. Today, we have never been here before, you fucking idiot. Oh, I'm talking to the listeners. Holy, that's a great start. Okay.
I'm like fucking amateur.
Holy, I didn't think it was going to get this ridiculous this fast. Oh, okay. So I've got my brother, Jaymie Friesen, on the show today. We're going to be talking about some dissociative order.
Dissociative.
Well, I'll just let you start off and explain what that is, and then we can kind of work into it.
Yeah, so I honestly don't know if I'm saying it right. I just say dissociative disorder. I might be missing a syllable there or something, but essentially that's the new name for person on a severe level is multiple personality. And on the other two levels of it, there's three levels. The other two is amnesia, which is complete time and memory loss. And then the next one is fugue state. And that is when you wander. So some people might just black out and then just come to like either miles away. Some people, my therapists have said that they had clients that would black out and end up in Seattle and just get on a plane randomly. Just like, shit. Yeah. So there's all sorts of levels of it. And,
are those levels above yours or below?
I have all of them.
Oh, okay. You got the complete package. This is sweet.
I got super fucked. And then on top of that, they also diagnosed me with complex PTSD. And the difference between complex PTSD and regular PTSD is regular PTSD is caused by one or two or three like major events, usually one or two. And complex is caused by kind of a heightened amount of stress, but over a very, very long period of time.
Okay. So then let's dig into, I guess, when did you first start having like weird episodes or things that you knew were, well, you didn't know, but maybe didn't seem so right at the time?
Yeah. So it's funny because now looking back, there was actually like, I had always thought there was maybe, I don't know, 7 to 10 times that it happened. But now that I know what it is and we're retracing steps and kind of bringing up memories from my younger years, it actually happened probably closer to 25 to 30 times.
Yeah, those 7 to 10 would have just been like the really obvious, super serious ones.
Yeah, exactly. So the first time something super bizarre happened, I was about 13 or 14 and I was at a party and I was sitting in the back of a truck. Everybody was drinking and whatnot. And there's about 12 people either around me in the truck, talking to me in the driveway, like plenty of people that could see me. And I remember our friend Dion was there and we were in the middle of a conversation and he looked up and all of a sudden I was just gone. I just completely disappeared. And I came to like miles and miles away in a swamp up to my knees running and scareder than I've ever been. And just, and that was, when I say came to, I should probably explain how it works. It's like you black out. Like if I had to explain it on a timeline, like on a video timeline, it'd be like, okay, yeah, everything's normal. And then like snap of fingers, blackout, complete time memory loss.
Yeah.
And then as you're going through it, it might give you like a little flash, and I call them slivers. It's like a sliver of visual. But you're still not in control of your body. It's just a visual. Sometimes you can feel the emotions that you felt or are feeling at that time. And sometimes some spatial awareness too. And then blackout again. And then, come to maybe a little bit again, just a little sliver again, just maybe a visual, maybe just spatial awareness and emotion. And then all of a sudden you come to, and you slowly, when you come out of it at the other end, it kind of leaves like a residue on you. So for example, it's like the way I try to describe it is it's like unloading a clip out of a gun or something. And that gun's loaded with emotion that other personality was experiencing and going through. And then it's like you unload the clip and that's you're the clip. You take it out and that one goes away, and then you put yourself back in, but there's still so much emotional turmoil there that I've come to just call residue, that it leaves like this kind of residue state on you. So those emotions can still affect me when I'm back and when I'm actually me. And then it lasts, and then finally, maybe a couple of hours later or something, I'll be totally back normal. Yeah. Yeah. A good example of the residue state, which I'll talk about another story after this, which is I had run like 25 miles or something one time, which is the fugue state, wandering randomly. And after that, I was actually I was visually conscious, but I was in this crazy residue state where I was actually still convinced that someone was coming to pick me up or get me. And I was pacing back and forth in my underwear like in the morning, just after a party for like, must have been an hour.
So would that be like something that that would be something that's like left over from being in the state where like no one's actually going to pick you up, but you maybe thought that when you were in that state and when you came out, you still think that. Yeah.
And then it slowly kind of wears off.
It's like when you wake up from a dream that like seemed really real, but you're not really sure.
And that usually would last for, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. If it's a really kind of bizarre experience with a dream. Well, that can last for hours with this. So after about an hour, finally, I kind of just snapped out of it. I think to myself, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, why would I even think that ever? No one's coming to get me.
Like, so you're like in a really like
a trance almost.
For a while.
Yeah, but it's not all the time. It's not every time it happens. It's really that
depends on whatever.
Yeah, like I said, like it's a bizarre mix. Like most people have kind of like one or two of those things, and having all of them is like every time's very different.
But I
was gonna say, should I go back to that story?
Which one?
About the first time it happened?
Oh, in the field. Was that at Cole's house?
No, that was like the third time it happened.
Oh, okay. I don't think I remember the first one.
Yeah, the first one was at a party in Aldergrove, and I had a sliver in a ditch. I was hiding in a ditch. That was the first time I had the little sliver of knowing maybe what was going on. And I was just remember like looking around, like someone was hunting me almost. And then I ran and then came to again in the swamp, like I said. And then I remember calling, I think I called you. I think that was you're my only brother night.
Well, like when these things used to happen, I just always brushed it off, right? I was kind of like, okay, what the fuck? Guy's fucking hammered. What an asshole. Like, why don't you just not drink so much? And like in my mind, it was just always you were drinking too much and it was your problem, that kind of thing. So, and most of the times it would happen, we would both be intoxicated a lot of the times, right? So like I'm fucking partying and like you're fucking like, you're my only brother, you need to fucking save me. And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to fucking like have fun and like do whatever's going on. So then I'm like debatably, then I'm upset about it. Whereas like now that I've opened up more and like gone through my own shit and other things, realizing, okay, fuck, like that's a really serious thing. And like, I wish that I would have had a different view on it, but I don't, there's nothing you can change about that. But, yeah, it's definitely,
I think that's I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah. What do you do? But
you learn from it. And it was, a good lesson. I mean, at a time in our lives, it was a good lesson for me to learn how to figure my own shit out.
Yeah.
But
yeah. What do you do?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, so that would have been the night. I remember that you were calling me. I just remember my phone like blowing up. It's like, you're my only brother. Save me. I'm like, bro, you're telling me you're in the middle of a swamp. You're like, I'm in the middle of this swamp. I'm fucking, all I have is my boxers. And I'm like, man, how am I even supposed to find you? If I was going to come right now and get you, like, I don't even know how I would even do that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I also called mom. And I actually almost cried when she told me this not too long ago, actually, like within the last couple of months, what I said.
Yeah.
Like I had called her and I never really knew what I said. Like obviously because I was blacked out.
Yeah.
But I said something along the lines like, they're coming to kill me. I don't know if I can stop it. Like, I'm sorry. I'll try my best kind of thing. I love you.
Yeah.
And then at that time, I believe I smashed my phone because I was running with it.
Yeah.
And then, that time
was that when you called the cops too and hid in the bushes?
Yeah. Yeah. So like, man, it got weird. Like I did some weird shit. I mean, I'm kind of a fucking weird person as is, but then like in a state like that, and we'll get to like how the multiple personality thing plays into it as well, later in a bit. But, like there was that time, there was a fair bit of kind of those slivers where I could visually see and feel kind of I'll explain that. But yeah, I ended up actually, and like some of this I pieced back from, like I told mom some stuff cause she ended up coming to pick me up. And found me. She was like, there's 3 people from the family driving around Aldergrove that night trying to find me.
Yeah.
And she ended up being the one to come get me and found me in a ditch. Well, I found her actually. I saw her car drive by and I ran after it like as fast as I could. She like freaked her out and got in. But I guess I told her some things about that night and then she repeated them back to me. But what I had done is I was scared someone was chasing me, like someone was trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And like the most immense amount of fear that I've ever felt. And I ended up knocking on some random dude's door and after like, it's like 1 a.m. So
I remember it'd always be really late.
Yeah. And buddy guy comes out and just, you can imagine the look on his face, man. I'm drunk. I'm like fucked and I'm wet. I'm like look like a swamp and I'm panicking. Like I'm freaking out and I'm just like out of breath. Like someone's trying to like come kill me, like whatever. And then, he called the cops or I asked him to call the cops or something. And he called them and then they walked up, but then I decided that I didn't trust them. So then I like slipped back into a bush and I swear to God, I was about 10 inches away from this cop. And he was standing at the door talking to the dude. And the guy's like, he was just right here. I don't know where he went. And I was just like standing right here, just staring at this cop. Like,
fuck these guys.
And they drove away and I ran out and eventually found mom.
Yeah. I feel like most of the major ones like that were always late and usually would end in mom somehow finding you.
Yeah, there's a lot of connections to mom. Yeah. But yeah, there's another time that happened was actually pretty bizarre. So I guess to continue along the story, that was the first time it happened. It happened plenty of other times. What's another good example? I mean, the one in Coles, I don't know why swamps are always a thing. I guess because of where we live. But
that was similar to the other one. Or the one where you woke up in like Surrey with no clothes. What you already sort of told, you woke up with no clothes and then...
Yeah, so that one, Connor was with me. Connor's my best friend. He was there for a lot of these actually. We were driving back from somewhere. We were at a party or something and we were all drunk. There's like 5 of us or something. I don't know if the driver was drunk, so I shouldn't say all of us, but and then I was sitting in the back, seatbelt on, shoulder to shoulder to Connor. We're all talking and whatnot. And we came to like a rolling stop and all of a sudden I was just gone, just like completely disappeared. Nobody heard me, felt me, heard my seatbelt off, the door open, nothing. I was just gone. And then that was somewhere in like Langley, Cloverdale area. And I ended up on the other side of Surrey, which is like, I don't know, 20 miles away or more. And I was in an industrial park and I had built myself a shelter out of signs that I kicked down. And I built myself a shelter and I don't know where my shoes went and I don't know where my pants went. I was in my boxers and a dress shirt from the party. And I slept in my little hut. And then and then in the morning in the residue state, I was pacing back and forth, expecting somebody to come, like, as if I knew someone was coming to get me, but they weren't.
Yeah. Well, didn't you end up going to like a grocery store?
Yeah, I was. So that's gotta be one of the most embarrassing things of my life. And I was like also hungover as fuck. So I'm just like the bags in my eyes and I'm just like feeling like a dead zombie. And I'm walking across I'm waiting on the side of the street for the crosswalk sign to go. And it's on the major highway and all these cars are just staring at me. And I'm just like, fuck all of you. I'm just like, just walking across the street, doing the walk of shame in front of all these people at like fucking 10 a.m. And then I walked into a Save On Foods and asked to use their phone, and like all the fucking girls working behind the counter just laughing at me.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember that too. I feel like a lot of times too, your phone would die and shit, and then it's like,
I had no phone.
Or lose it or whatever. Yeah. I don't know how the hell your fucking clothes come off every time. Too.
Yeah.
Almost every time it's like, I have no clothes. It's like instantly you get scared and you rip all your clothes off.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weird, but I don't know. Part of it, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot of bizarre little aspects to it.
Yeah, so those are some of the bigger events. And then more recently, you've realized what it was, and you've been working on that. And it's been a big thing lately. So maybe I'd say maybe go over the most recent event that happened, and then what you've been doing since then, and realizing, and kind of like, going back afterwards.
So one thing that I'd like to mention is that in grade 11, I dropped out and I spent about a year doing a lot of meditation, yoga, reading, self-discovery, a lot of deep contemplation, journaling, contemplating who I was, my philosophy, all that stuff, and also stopped drinking for that year.
Yeah.
And after that, it seemed to stop happening for like a long period of time, for years. And then it kind of felt like it went away. Like it kind of felt like I didn't worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
And after that, because everybody had always said that it's the alcohol. Nobody knew what it was. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was something kind of fucked up. I knew it was more than the alcohol, but nobody.
I just think it's so hard to tell. Like, fuck. I mean, alcohol just makes everything worse.
I mean, I could tell. It was very easy for me to tell.
Yeah.
And like a lot of other people too, who were like a little bit more in tune or open, they're like, yeah, like that's not normal.
Yeah.
And then I reintroduced alcohol very slowly, specifically with beer. And this is important, I'd go out after a year of not drinking and like working on myself, and I'd have one beer, and then maybe, a few weeks later I'd try and go out and just have two. And I'd be very, very cautious. So it's like I retrained myself to be able to go out and have fun, because at that age when I don't even know how old I was then, like 18, 19 or something, maybe even younger. I still like was in that mindset where I really felt the need to go out and have fun in that way. So that was important to me. So I did that, and it seemed to work. Like it didn't really happen to me. Like, and again, it's not to say that it happens all the time when I drink. It's like, for example,
just like escalates it.
Yeah. So it's like,
and I mean, I feel like just having one or two beers isn't going to send it into a crazy episode.
No, the best way I can put it is the alcohol makes people in a more of a porous state. And like a visualization for me is like the energy in your body kind of expanding and almost becoming a little bit more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then allowing more things to come in and through you. Almost like opening yourself up to other triggers. I don't think alcohol in itself is the trigger. It just opens me up to other triggers.
True.
Yeah. But yeah, it kind of went away for those years. And then last year I was at a party, and I was kind of the new one. I was with Emma, my girlfriend, my partner, and I was kind of like the new one into the friend group. So it was fun. It was good fun. Everybody's kind of like pushing a little bit more alcohol on me than I would normally do. And like, it's been so long. I didn't even think to be like, fuck, I can't drink any hard stuff.
Yeah.
And I ended up drinking some of it. I mean, no fault to anybody. That's completely on me. And again, like it is what it is. But I woke up that night screaming in the middle of the night, crying, freaking out for mom.
Yeah.
And I was just like, she was in trouble. I needed to get to her. Like I was having a full on crazy attack. Like I just needed to get to her and like right now.
Yeah.
And Emma had never seen that before, and she didn't know about it again because I thought it had gone away.
Yeah.
So she calmed me down. I think it happened a couple of times. And then in the morning, when you come out of it, you're left with an impression. And the best way I can describe this impression is, imagine a quilted blanket, and each square that's quilted into it is a piece of information. Mm-hmm. It could be spatial awareness, like what was in the room. It could be emotions. It could be any other type of information. Some of them are locked. So some of them you don't even get. You know they're there, but you don't get them.
Yeah, yeah.
And then someone drapes that over top of you, and then it soaks into your skin. Mm-hmm. It's just like a bodily knowing. It's not, if you start thinking about it, it disappears.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you just have to feel almost.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I knew right away that mom had been drinking the night before and she had a breakdown.
Yeah.
I knew that immediately. So it's like it triggered that. And by the way, like, I mean, obviously, you know this, mom was an alcoholic until about the age of 12. Mm-hmm. Well, when I was 12. And then that's a whole nother story. But I need her, basically said that I'm not coming to see you anymore until you stop drinking. And then she did it again. And then I left. And then she called me 3 days later and said that she's going to rehab and whatnot. So that at a younger age, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And my bond and connection with mom was a big thing. Mm-hmm. And that triggered it that night, which is crazy to think because she's, you know, hundreds miles or 100 kilometers away.
Yeah. Wasn't she was in a Soyuz or something that week?
I think she was in Hope.
Yeah. She was at some party or something. I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, so that was bizarre. And I called her in the morning right away and she confirmed it. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. So after that, I went to a hypnotherapist because I was like, you know, this is kind of fucked up. It hasn't happened in so many years and it happened again. And I think maybe I'm strong enough to get to the bottom of it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to a hypnotherapist, didn't agree with them, like not agree with them, but I didn't like vibe with them. She was like a stage hypnotherapist, or not even a like a stage hypno person.
It was a stage hypnotherapist.
Like a circus hypnotizer where you know what I mean?
It does that for like show.
Yeah, for like a trick. And then I guess she moved into the therapy realm, but she was still speaking to me like it's some kind of show. And I'm just like, it was like just.
So it was a weird experience.
Yeah. Like it wasn't sitting right with me. I'm sitting there like trying to focus on getting hypnotized, but also just like hearing her fucked up voice.
And like, cause they're supposed, like the hypnotherapist, what are they supposed to do?
They're supposed to bring you into a theta state almost, which is like the state as you're falling asleep or the state as you're waking up, almost like a vivid dream. Mm-hmm. So that's.
And then they'll do that to pull like information out of you or things like subconscious things. Yeah.
And then they'll ask you questions and you'll just speak the first thing that comes to mind type thing.
Yeah.
So we tried, I think I went to 1 or 2 sessions. Not a lot really came out.
The first few.
Yeah. The first couple, like first 1 or 2, it might've just been 1 actually. And yeah, like not much really came out. We just like tried to dabble a little bit deeper.
And this was the same lady. You went to her a couple times?
No. That was just a year ago. And I started not being able to sleep.
After the hypnotherapy.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden I was super scared that someone was going to come into my door. You know, I still think that I may have been abducted by aliens, but I think that's for a different episode maybe. But I was like, I felt scared that someone or something was going to like come into my door at night and I would lay there for hours and not be able to sleep. I couldn't sleep for like 3 days.
I've always had that same feeling though. Like I remember when I was younger too. I mean, that's why I'm curious to go to one as well.
I'm getting creeped out here. I'm looking behind me.
But I was always, for me, it wasn't doors, it was windows.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know why windows, but when we lived at our dad's place at Dwayne still, I remember like every night, like freaking out. Like I was thinking someone was standing right outside the thing or people were walking up to it. And that would happen. Like, I remember it vividly, like all the time. So it kind of like weirds me out that I'm like, maybe they came through my window. The aliens took me first and then they came through your door to get you beside me. Then we were gone.
Well, I swear to fuck, man, when I used to have like a protocol, and I used to like heavily research
what, your wooden spoon, dude? Oh
I used to sleep like a mummy with a wooden spoon about this long. It was an ironwood spoon. It was like,
thing was hard as hell.
oh yeah, dude, it was a weapon. It wasn't a spoon. And then I had a knife, a big stupid knife on the other side, and I'd fall asleep like this, like a mummy. And I would sleep. I still sleep like that to this day. Like I'd sleep like a mummy and don't move like at all. But I swear one night I had like this weird, again, almost like a vivid dream of like the whole classic blue light thing coming through the window. And then I was sick for 3 days after that with the exact symptoms of radiation poisoning.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, that totally could have been a fluke, but also could be abducted by aliens. Who the fuck knows?
I think it's definitely aliens.
Yeah. But anyway, the hypno thing, I was scared for 3 days. And then I was subconsciously scared, but I was also like consciously scared.
Yeah. It was both. Yeah.
I was kind of like, consciously, I was thinking like, I don't know, maybe I'm not ready to dig into it. Maybe the people that are close to me aren't in a good enough spot. I don't want, like, what if it unlocks some crazy shit in my head and I'm freaking out and I need like to go sleep with someone every night? Like, because like, dude, like when I used to be scared shitless of alien, I'd go sleep with Rico every single night.
Yeah.
Cause I couldn't sleep.
And we'd like always have sleepovers, like watching movies and shit, like together all the time, quite often. Yeah.
So I was just scared. Like, I don't know, what if no one knows how to help me, I guess, was a big fear too.
Yeah. It can be hard on your own.
Yeah. And I was also living like way out in the middle of nowhere at the time by myself.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it wasn't super like awesome time. Yeah. But I think those fears were being caused by my subconscious fear.
Yeah.
Because I knew that there was, subconsciously I knew that there was something there.
Yeah.
So then again, it just kind of didn't happen. There was like a brief episode in the summer as well, where I kind of like walked off and wandered around a bit, and Emma was there too. And then recently, like 2-3 months ago, it happened again, like the worst episode that's ever happened, like by far. The exact details of it, I'm not at liberty to say or talk about, but it hurt, it hurt some people close to me. It hurt me a shitload. It hurt some people close to me. And the dynamics of the way that it happened, so here's another, this is like getting into the stuff that's really hard to explain because it's like the actual like mental shit, what's going on.
Yeah.
But what happens sometimes is it feels like I'm being thrown into the back of my own head. And actually visually looks like that sometimes too. Yeah. Like I've gotten in fights before where it just looks like I'm watching my body move itself like a video game that's like this big. Yeah. So I'm like, that's my eyes and I'm like way back here looking in.
Okay.
So, and the impression thing goes along with this too. So it leaves impressions on me after it lets me out.
Yeah.
But this time got interrupted in such an emotionally traumatic way that it's like me, it's like I felt it traumatized me and it made me full of grief, sadness, love, even in a weird way, anger, frustration. It made me really emotional enough that I was able to put an impression on it instead of just it on me.
Yeah.
So for a very brief moment, it's like both personalities were living in the same head and just like ripping each other apart. Like it was, that experience in itself was one of the most traumatic things I've ever been through. Yeah.
And that's like, is that at the end of the episode?
That was right in the middle.
Okay. Right in the middle.
Yeah. And again, like it's way too powerful to ever overcome it. Like, it's not like, I don't know, it's like in movies, you see this classic thing where it's like, the fucking character like overcoming their demon or some shit. Yeah. And they overpower it with the good. Like that's like not a thing here.
Yeah.
To the best of my experience and knowledge, like
at least not yet.
Yeah. Like once the blackout occurs, there's nothing I can do. I can do everything in my power to change my lifestyle and make sure the triggers don't happen and things like that. And integrate it. Like it is healable, which I'm doing right now. But once the blackout happens, once the switch happens, there's no ability for me, like it's way too strong. There's no ability for me to take over again.
It would be pretty similar to like blacking out from just like, normally blacking out from drinking. Once you black out, you have no idea you blacked out. No? Like then like there's nothing you can do once you black out from drinking. You can't just switch out of it.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
Yeah, I guess in a way that would...
Until it's just essentially, obviously, way more extreme and different, more emotional and stuff, right?
Yeah.
With the drinking thing, you just literally pretty much remember nothing, wake up, people tell you did some dumb shit, and that's it. But I don't think you get as much... I mean, I think you still maybe get a bit of the sliver stuff, but I don't think you're really left with many impressions of anything.
Yeah, no, it's definitely more emotional. Like because I can clearly tell the difference when I black out drunk versus blackout have an episode.
Okay, yeah,
like very clearly.
And can you tell? You can tell during it too, or just after when you snap out, or a bit of both. Probably.
So during it's weird. So again, like when I say the sliver, how do I explain this? When I say the sliver and I get that visual awareness, you got to remember I just mean visual.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like, it's not me.
Yeah.
So like, it's not really I don't know. Is it weird to say it's not really my memory to have, because it's the other energy that's kind of taking control of my body at that point.
Yeah, I think it's pretty hard to explain.
It might be closer to a flashback. For example, it all happens and then all of a sudden I get this impression, like I get the memory of it after it lets me back into my head.
Okay.
But the way I remember it is like a video timeline, so I can kind of tell which things took place in what order and what order the emotions took place in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe a flashback's better explanation there.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense a little bit.
No, I should have actually printed out some art. Maybe if we do a blog post or something, we'll throw some art in there that helps explain it.
Photos and stuff.
Yeah, because trying to explain this to people, some of the best ways I find is actually looking up. My first thought is like, I'm going to draw this because this isn't, but then I was like, I can't fucking draw. I'm sitting here drawing stick people and shit. But
there's probably some stuff online that you probably found.
Yeah, I looked up artists, like people who have it, but are also artists.
I was just going to say, you could probably draw some of that shit and sell it.
Some super abstract. I'm like throwing paint all over the place. Yeah. So after that, that's like the most recent episode,
the Whistler one.
Yeah.
So since then, you started like seeing a lot more therapists and other types of people and things. So who like basically post event, what did you do? Like it hit you?
Oh, I fucking freaked out.
Yeah. Like, well, I remember picking you up the next day. I'd slept through the whole thing, so I didn't even know what the hell was going on. Either way. So post event.
Yeah. I basically,
cause this one like really set off, like really triggered you and really, bothered you and a lot of people. So it was time to like, obviously time to really dig into it.
Yeah. And again, like, I don't know, like I guess I had hoped during the past year that it was gone. Like after seeing the initial hypnotherapist, like I said, it happened in the summer, but I only really realized that in hindsight, like in recent months, I realized that actually indeed was an episode.
Okay.
So again, like, it's not like I knew it was back. Otherwise.
Yeah, they would have been pretty mild.
Yeah. So it's just this whole, it's really complicated because I do obviously wish that I took the responsibility to heal at that time.
Earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. But
it's hard to tell.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up and everybody always just said, it's alcohol. Stop drinking, you fucking idiot. Just like,
that was me.
And dad was a big player in that. Like a lot of like everything in life, usually like friends and family are the hardest to get by. Right. So a lot of friends.
Like, one thing on that too would be like, I took more to our father's side of like thinking probably. From a young age. So for those types of episodes where like you would lean to mom And she's a lot more into like the native culture and energy and like more of a holistic side where our dad isn't. So it was, and we both lived with Dwayne. So when we would be, these things would happen, it like you would end up more so dealing with mom because everyone,
because I had no one else to talk to,
would be the same thing. We'd both kind of just be like, fuck this asshole, drinking idiot. And then like, we were all kind of like on that page, whereas, and I didn't spend much time with mom growing up. So, that was for like my own reasons and things. But I think that, yeah, that side, when those times came, kind of just like pulled away and weren't a lot of help. Yeah.
I mean, I think some of my most major help was mom, obviously, Ryder, my dog, nature. Sure. Nature was always a big one.
Yeah.
Just like a few of my closer friends, like Connor and stuff, obviously. But yeah, it's something I'd like to also talk later about open-mindedness and closed-mindedness and the definitions of those and how those can impact people.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of been stuck in a stigma around that, I feel. Yeah, some people think that they're like open to it or open-minded, but in reality, they're kind of not.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit about how people treat me with it, because I know I'm fine. I have my tools. I'll get through it. I'm good. Yeah. But some people might be a little bit more fragile, and I could see how that could totally affect them in a pretty rough way. Yes. So, after that big event, I went on a frenzy trying to do anything and everything I could because my life was completely fucked.
Yeah.
At that point, because it had caused so much shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I saw 12 different types of therapists in the first like 2 weeks.
What were some of the different ones you saw?
I mean, at first I was reaching out to anyone and anything. I was doing counselors,
just trying
psychotherapists,
whoever can get you in the soonest kind of thing.
Yeah. I didn't even know what the difference was between a counselor and a psychotherapist or any other type of random therapist because there's so many weird names out there.
Just show up and find out.
Yeah. And I went to hypnotherapists. I went to energy readers and energy healers and craniosacral, breath work, hypnotherapy again. And each of these I went to like I thought about it in a very logical manner, and I went to like 3 to 5 practitioners of each before I found one that vibed with me.
Yeah.
And eventually I did. And basically what started happening is that this is when I found out. This is when I was diagnosed with dissociative disorder and complex PTSD because I was going down this path trying to find myself a therapist that I want to work with, and everybody is kind of like, wow, like because I didn't know what it was, so I'm just like, hey, here's what's happening. Help.
What the hell's going on?
Give
me something.
At first, I didn't really know. I didn't expect there to be anything. I just because.
You thought you just talked through some shit and like...
Well, all these things that I'm bringing up are hindsight. Like I'm talking about them in hindsight when I tell them. But at the time, I was blaming myself. And there's a difference between taking responsibility and taking blame. If you take blame for it, like, I don't know who's to blame for what's in my head. Like...
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Like nowadays, everybody's always trying to blame something or someone for everything, when it doesn't necessarily help anything.
No, because I was sitting there in an amazing amount of self-hatred, pulling in the hatred that everybody else must feel towards me, the hatred that I already feel towards myself.
Yeah, my
pain, the traumatic experience of going through that night. Yeah, with just feeling torn apart in my own head. With everything, the pain that I caused people close to me, the confusion, just like completely, utterly confused, not being able to be in contact with some of the people that are closest to me in life. And I haven't really I've told some people this story, but I haven't really mentioned this, but I think it's important to mention on the topic of mental illness that one night I basically got so low, I stood on the edge of my deck. I wanted to kill myself for like hours, and not even like contemplating suicide, but legitimately just really fucking wanted to. And I've never been quite that low before. And to be honest, the only thing that stopped me was thinking that I don't know if Mom and Emma would be okay. Mm-hmm. And it's okay for me. It's okay for me to take it's not really okay for me to take my life,
not
but
at all.
That was my thinking at the time. Like, it's okay for me to take my life, but not theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that tore me apart in itself. And that's, eventually what stopped me from doing it. That was the factor. Mm-hmm. I figured everybody else in life could get through that if I did that, but I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if Mom and Emma would be.
Yeah.
So
So that's pretty.
Yeah. So it was pretty fucked up, super low spot, felt super alone, felt really confused because I didn't know what it was. I just knew something was horribly wrong, like in my head.
Yeah.
And
like
nobody knew, like if I explained it to someone, no one really understands.
Yeah. I think the problem with it is like, I can see there's a lot more confusion. I think the confusion that's just always a really hard part for me, is like the confusion aspect. Like, I think depression, anxiety, stuff like that, like it's pretty easy to tell what it is. And like, well, not always, but it's also like when like there's so much confusion for yours and all this stuff going on and nobody knows why. They're not just like, oh, he just had like an anxiety attack or he's depressed. It's like, there's so much shit from like all these different angles that how do you really handle that? And like being in your own head. And I remember when I would be going through some of my like anxiety, panic attack stuff, I'd be confused as hell too. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? What caused this? Why is this happening? And I can only imagine that for you, it was probably like 10 times worse, if not more, like the confusion aspect. And that's what hit me the hardest when I would have similar thoughts. It was always because I was so fucking confused and had no idea where to even start or what to do. I was just like, fuck this. So I think I can only imagine how much more extreme that would be. Yeah.
The different type of confusion, a fucking dark confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I scrambled. I mean, to be honest, personally, that's one of the things that I'm pretty proud of myself for, is that out of all the shit that I've been through, if there's one thing that I know how to do naturally, it's heal.
Yeah.
And I scrambled. I did everything. I had no fucking money either. I had to pull money out of the business account that I shouldn't have used. And I had to, borrow whatever I could. And because all those sessions I went to was $200 each.
Yeah. They're not cheap. And I think, I mean,
I was going to like 3 a day.
It adds up. It's insane. But I mean, I think being resilient like that and taking action right away and doing what you have to do is like, that's one of the most important things. Like if you can't sit there on that shit for years to come, because it's just going to happen maybe worse the next time,
Yeah. Like, so that's one of the major principles in life that I've put in place after this is when the universe brings something out, it means it's time to heal it.
Yeah.
I hear people talk about being ready all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, look, I'm not ready. I don't feel ready. Well, I didn't feel ready a year ago when I couldn't sleep, but do I wish that I fucking committed to it now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in a big way, not a little way, not like, let's go see a therapist and just see what comes up. It's like, no, like book 3 sessions with that therapist and 3 sessions with 4 other types of healers. Like really commit.
Yeah, I think that's something that we've always done that's sort of been ingrained into us, is taking like, I don't know, I just feel like we take everything to the extreme where it's like, and I don't know, it's just the more you learn and the more you research, the more I just see a need to actually do that. Like you need to see multiple practitioners and people because like you said, some just don't vibe with you, or like some don't know what you're going through. Like there's so many times
it could actually be dangerous. Like some of the people I went and saw, I almost wanted to tell them they need some fucking help. Like they're talking to me and I'm like, I could totally see somebody who's like not as like strong-minded go in there and actually almost get bullied by some of these counselors.
Yeah, I think a lot of people too will just believe anything some of those people say, right? They're not really like searching for the truth or what feels right to them. They're just taking anything they can get. And I think that gets scary as well, right? Or like you're not taking any meds or anything for it, but like they probably offered stuff to some of the people.
I kind of like, I don't know. I'm a pretty decent judge of character. I kind of whizzed out of most of those offices that I felt like would have done that.
Yeah. I just feel like misdiagnosis is like a big problem too, right? Like how many things did you diagnose that as to get you on some weird fucking pill that maybe even made it worse or whatever?
Yeah, there's two people in particular. One of the ones was the one you dropped me off to like the next day.
Yeah, I remember that.
It happened on, it was like literally like 30 hours after it happened and you dropped me off there. And yeah, like she was just like jumping to conclusions. I was trying to tell my story and she's like, oh yeah, no, it's this and this. So like, yeah, you got to do that. And I'm just thinking like, no, I know it's not that.
Dude, I'm not like, even done telling you what's going on.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't even finish my story. How the fuck do you know? Like,
yeah, just making assumptions like too soon.
And someone who's a bad listener shouldn't be a healer of any sort. No. Yeah, it was, I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I went, I did that. And all these counselors and these therapists started saying, like common themes started saying, oh, it sounds like dissociative disorder. And then I was like, okay, I got that 3-4 times. So then I started reaching for people who are specialized in it. I found one doctor that specialized in it for 20 years. And then I found one that worked in that area. And then also like had a very, very wide practice. So she, like had a shitload of education.
So the girl had like 12 PhDs or something.
Not 12 PhDs, but like just acronyms. So like, for example, you could go, same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
You could go to, there's full therapists and clinics that only practice under one type of mental model. So like they're modeling you under one thing and don't take into consideration anything else.
Yeah.
Which is fucking stupid, especially for me, because I consider myself a fairly spiritual person.
Yeah.
So like I need,
it's pretty limited.
Yeah. You want someone with a very open mind and a variety of tools to pull from to help you.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely look for someone who practices in like a wide variety of areas if anybody out there's looking for a psychotherapist. And if you don't know, there is a big difference between a counselor and other types of therapists and like an actual certified psychotherapist.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Well, one of the things that I usually do is just automatically look for like the best, most expensive person I can find. And like, not always the most expensive person is the best, but like chances are you get what you pay for a lot of the time.
Yeah. In this case I did.
Yeah.
And same. Like it's not going to get you all the way there, but it usually gets me into the top 30, 20 percentile of people. Definitely. So
yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't cheap out on your health and who's playing with your brain.
No. Yeah. Because I did the same thing with naturopaths, right? I went to a few and then I was like, fuck this. I don't care. I'm going to go to the one that costs the most money because I know they're going to be, well, I'm assuming they're going to be the best. I don't know. But it ended up being really well and like became really close with him, his family and other people. So like, I don't know. It's always, that model's pretty much always worked out.
Yeah. And obviously not everybody has that luxury, but just one thing I want to say is if you have to, borrow the money.
Yeah.
And again, don't put it off. If you put it off, it's going to blow up in your fucking face, or worse yet, this is way worse in my opinion. It will continue just like at a mediocre level for the rest of your life. And then you'll always be a little bit scared of it and you'll never know what it feels like to live without it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really scary. And I think a lot of people in society live like that.
Oh, 100%. And I think that too, it's just priorities, right? Like people, like it's just all the consumer shit where people like have their paycheck and that's how much money they get. And it's like, okay, I spend $200 right now and like try and fix my head, or I like buy a new video game or go for dinner or like go get some drinks with my buddies. Like that always for most people is more important. But I think, yeah, like literally do whatever you have to do to get your health and everything figured out. Even if man, like how I was like 30 grand in debt when I did it. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I took everything that I had to do. I just finally hit that point where I was like, this is so fucked. I don't care how much money I have to spend. Max out my student credit line, max out my credit card, paid for a bunch of the shit out of the business, and then still had family help me out after that.
Yeah.
And like, and it took me a year. Like, you know, it just takes a long time. And I think too, the further that you put it off, the longer it takes to heal it. Mm-hmm. In certain things. It's just like, if you think about like what you're putting your body through for, you know, like for me, it was 24 years of destroying my body. Took me like a solid 4 or 5 to like get a pretty good turnaround. But ratio wise, that's not that bad. Mm-hmm. If you think about it. But if you put it off and you live like shit for 50 years, well, then it might take you till you're 65 to really like get through everything and get your body back in proper health. You know, it takes a long time and a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I maxed out a couple of credit cards, but I think for me, I think I kind of was lucky with my story, at least, because I had done some healing before and it's always been an interest of ours.
Yeah, you had a lot of prereqs.
Yeah. Yeah. So like going into it, I kind of
that's true. You already had that whole kind of like year and were pretty into those things.
Yeah. And I think just like a lot of reading, self-awareness, like consciousness even. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I didn't feel like we talked about confusion earlier. I didn't feel confused and like I don't know what to do.
Okay.
A little bit maybe, but yeah. It was more of a dark confusion as like, what the fuck is in my head?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And who am I even? Mm-hmm. Because of what had happened, it like broke really hardcore philosophies and morals that I had set out for myself.
Yeah.
And kind of just felt completely ripped. Mm-hmm. Like just to shreds, and I had to build myself back up.
Yeah. Luckily
I've done that before. So it was not as hard. Not to say it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
But, so my approach when going into seeing healers of any type was I wasn't going in like, hey, fix me. Mm-hmm. I was going in like, help me understand myself.
Yeah.
So, because they can't heal you.
No.
Nobody can fucking heal you.
Yeah.
You have to heal yourself.
100%.
So you have to bring yourself to a good level of self-awareness. Mm-hmm. And then you have to learn to understand yourself. The other thing that I think is super important that I did back in the day as a prerequisite, and I think this is things that everybody should do, understand the physical brain. Mm-hmm. Like really study it with interest.
Yeah.
And then from there, study psychology. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't understand your brain and how the chemicals are moving and the emotions and things are working in your brain, then how can you ever possibly understand yourself, let alone heal something? I mean, obviously it's possible, but I just think that helped me. That made it way faster.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, like you have to do it yourself, right? Like these people, you can go see them all, but all they're going to do is give you the tools. I mean, they give you some guidance and pretty much guidance and tools and understanding, but you have to go home and do all the work with these things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where people fall off, right? Everyone's under this impression that like you take a pill or it's really simple to heal, but it's not. If you really want to get over these things, it's so much work that like, you know, everyone's in these lazy states and like, I don't know, it's just like the comfort of today's society is like no one wants to put that work in.
Yeah,
and that's where it gets hard.
It's like anything else in life. Like, I don't know, you want to be a fucking professional athlete or hockey player or something, or you want to be an entrepreneur or something, you commit to it. Yeah. You work on that every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you want to be healthy? You have to work on being healthy. You can't just...
it's like, the same thing.
There's no fucking pill. If you're taking a pill, you're fucked. I shouldn't say that because they actually can't help people and whatnot. So I don't mean to offend anyone. But
yeah, I think it can be really good to like quickly stabilize or like, you know, there's lots of stuff that like, you know, when strokes or heart or like, you know...
Not a long-term solution though.
No, like cardiovascular stuff like that happens. You rush to the hospital, they blast you full of this shit, clears you out, you get sorted, but then you can take a real approach from there, right? Like it can, I think it can help. I think you can help like stall death or whatever, right? If you're in that state, but then beyond that, like you can't just keep taking that shit forever.
Yeah, and same with mental illnesses. Like if they
yeah, I know a lot of people who have gone on antidepressants or like anxiety meds just to get stabilized. Like you do it for a couple months, you get till you're feeling pretty good, but at the same time, you have a plan and you know what you're doing, and taking like those can allow you to get your healing routines and things in place and be able to do those, and then weaned out and go the other way.
Yeah, I think as long as you have that plan, I think that's the gist there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I ended up figuring out what it was. And then I went and and again, like I got diagnosed first by Janine, actually, who is she's actually, I don't know, I call her my spiritual therapist, but that's probably a bad name. She's a psychotherapist. She's the one with like 8 acronyms before her name. She's very wide practice. She just happens to have like an energetic kind of like spiritual side that she, like an intuitive side almost, that she incorporates into our sessions, which is a big part of this. And then we'll talk about that too. And then I didn't stop there, because I was like, I'm not just going to get one diagnosis. So then I went to the guy who had like 20 years, or I think it was 18 years of experience. And he specialized in it in New York for 18 years and just saw like, this is all he focused on, just loads of fucked up dissociative disorder cases. And a lot of people have super severe multiple personality.
Yeah.
And then he came to the same conclusion. So I was like, okay, I'm fucked. But then
that's what he said too. He's like, I can't help you. You're too fucked.
Well, the good thing about going to so many people is you get little tidbits of information from each person, like very different ones. And a couple of cool ones that I got from him. He said that it's likely that like, it happened again last year when I woke up freaking out trying to find mom. But the hypnotherapy after that, he said that probably made it a lot worse. He's like, the fact that it had some kind of effect on you, you weren't sleeping, and this fear, this subconscious fear that's been buried for so long or deep in your memories somewhere is coming up and you don't really know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
He's like, it's a very fragile thing. Like it could totally have like brought it back.
Yeah.
Right.
Could bring it up.
And then I just didn't even know, because how the fuck are you supposed to know that?
Yeah. It'll just resurface it.
Yeah. So that's why this most recent episode was so extreme. Yeah. But yeah, so I went to them. And then, another important session was hypnotherapy. So
this was a different lady though.
Yeah. New lady. So I went to the first one, and then I went to 3 or 4 more.
Okay.
Like in the recent, like within 2 weeks of this latest episode happening. Yeah. I mean, pretty hard to find.
Yeah.
Even more so, I would say, than like a psychotherapist, because it's kind of like you're trusting them in a weird state.
Yeah. I think I kind of feel weird about going to one. I was even because I was going to ask, like, I feel like I would be a little bit nervous to know, because when I asked you about it, you said that you're not like, you're still fairly aware. Like, you're like, you still kind of, And to me, that seemed weird. I'm like, I don't know. I just fear being there and like looking at her and like knowing I can't move and I'm just saying shit that I don't even know. I was just like, this seems like,
I don't know,
kind of freaks me out.
I don't know if this is what you're getting at, but this is what, as soon as it was over, I'll tell you what came up. Obviously, I mean, you already know, but as soon as it was over, I kind of sat there, and the first thing I said to her, I was like, what if it's all bullshit? I was like, what if everything that just came out of my fucking mouth was just like, I don't know, just like randomly just didn't even happen, or just like somehow my brain just brought that out of my head.
Yeah.
But first I'll say what it is. So I go in, had gone to a couple hypnotherapists already felt way better being around this individual. She was way more centered, way more grounded, older, like seemed a lot wiser and just very good listener.
Yeah.
So listen to it. Very, very gentle. They also have to kind of have a soothing voice because they're leading you through it with their voice.
Oh, okay. So they talk to you while they do it.
Yeah. So then she leads you in.
Well, I guess they have to. Just holds a sign, like say something. Like, fuck.
Yeah. Shooting sign language at you.
Yeah.
So I lay down and it's like a meditative state. So you go into this kind of meditation and then she counts you down and I mean, there's pretty common exercises to like get you into it.
Okay.
And then we used, I think it's called regression, or I don't know what it's, basically what you do is you take a memory and then they ask you to like step through that memory in this like vivid dream state. They ask you to step through that memory to the point that it very first happened, that you very first felt the same thing.
Yeah.
So, particularly she asked, like, the last time I went to the other hypnotherapist last year, we did the same thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about the same memory.
It was something else.
I thought about one of the other episodes that happened, but this time I was like, hey, I'm fucking going all in because shit's fucked in my life.
Yeah.
I'm rock bottom right now. Yeah. So I'm diving headfirst into this. So I picked the strongest one, which was that first episode that happened. And where there was like that immense fear and I thought someone was like hunting me or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I took that and then she asks you to step back through it to the first time that it happened. And then she asks you questions. The other big thing is if they don't ask the right questions, it's almost like feeling like they have to kind of like feel out what the right questions are going to be.
Yeah.
Because if you ask the wrong question, then like my subconscious just doesn't respond.
So it's quite intuitive as well.
It is. It's a very intuitive practice. Yeah, like I vibed with her and she was really intuitive and to the point that she brought up a couple, like some things she was saying. I'm like, holy fuck. Like she's like reading me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she walked back through that and we walked through the whole memory and she asks like, where are you? Are you inside? Are you outside? And those cues are nice. So
just
then,
little easy questions.
Yeah, really small, little bit by little bit. And I say, I'm inside. She's, where are you? I was like, I'm in a room. She says, is there like how old are you? And then I say 7. And then she says, is there anyone else with you? And then I was like, and then she said, is there anyone else in the room or in the house? I was like, yeah, like in the house. Like where? Like, can you leave the room? I was like, no. She's like, is it like, what's going on? And she's like, is there a door closed? I was like, yeah, the door is closed. It's like, where's the other person? I said, on the other side of the door.
Yeah.
And then and then all this stuff. And then anyways, I ended up like, I don't know. Should I walk through the whole story? Do you want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay. So, and then I have the transcript of this.
Yeah.
So then like I, put it together after and so I kept it because I keep like a folder almost of like healing shit.
Yeah.
And anyways, like there's this guy outside the door and it's not locked, but it's like he's holding the doorknob almost. So it's like I can leave, but only at his will.
Yeah.
And like I was changing into something, like I was putting something on. And then we're going up the stairs and he was like, we were kind of like playing. So we were kind of like playing, walking up the stairs in like a playful way type thing. And then we get upstairs and then she was trying to ask me like, she asked me who it is. She asked me to turn around and try to look at his face to see who it was. She asked me like, is there anyone else in the house? No. She asked me, where's your mom? And I answered that. And then I knew, and then she, and then ended up, we go into the bedroom and there was like, she asked, okay, like what's happening now? And I said like, I'm on the floor. And she's like, where's the guy? And I said, he's like 3 feet in front of me. She says, what are you feeling? And I said, him. She said, how so? I said, it's like, what are you feeling off of him? How's he feeling? I was like, I feel his darkness.
Mm-hmm.
I feel his confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's emotionally, mentally confused almost.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, you know what? Like I knew something bad was going to happen next.
Yeah.
And then she would kind of fast forward in time. And then the next thing we know, it's like on the bed, but at this point I can't, it's like getting too fearful that it won't let it, it's like holding on and it won't let me to pull that memory out.
Yeah.
And then she finally got through to me to like move up to the top of the room to overview what was happening. And then she sensed that, you know, we got a little deeper than that, but then she sensed that it was just getting a little bit too deep.
Yeah.
So then she kind of turned into a kind of like a healing practice, and she said, okay, like you're your older self now. You're going to step back and you're going to go to that little boy, like your past self. This was what she's saying. Like you're going to go to that little boy. You're going to make sure that you know that you're there for him.
Mm-hmm.
And you like, go there now, like touch him, hold him, do whatever. And then we did that for a while. She saw how he was feeling, how I was feeling now.
Yeah.
Picked him up. She said, where's the guy now? Sitting out watching TV or something.
Yeah.
And then she said, pick up your younger self and you take him and you walk out and you stand right in front of that TV and you look at him in the eye, and then basically confronted it as well in the same time. Which is weird. A lot of feelings came out there. Like I was like full on shaking on the table, crying.
Yeah. It was a super powerful experience.
Oh yeah, no, very, very. And even like when I was really little, I used to always have this like image, or not even an image, just like I've always, it's almost like I always looked up to myself in a weird way, like this image that, or this energy of like myself, like I'm there for me, but it wasn't me at that time. And then after we went through this experience, it's almost like I had felt that before. Yeah. It's like at that age, I had felt my future self come back and fucking save me during that time, which is it's a very spiritual thing for me. Yeah. But yeah, I felt that very strongly. And yeah. And then after I got out of that session, when I asked her, I said, is this all bullshit? Like, how do I know it's real? I mean, for one, at this point, the only thing really telling me that's real is the emotions and the things that are coming up for me. The fact that I'm sitting there like freaking out, crying. Yeah. And then when I said that, and she just looked at me and she said, you'll never know the exact details, but what we do know is that there was abuse and something happened, and that man was wrong. Yeah. And that's all. Yeah. That's all she said. And then,
still a lot to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I went out, and mom was texting me cause she was, wanting to make sure I was alive and shit. Yeah. So I texted her and I asked her, like a bunch of questions about how old was I when you were with this guy? Yeah. And then she confirmed the age, she confirmed where she was. And then, she confirmed that he was like, I don't want to say if he was like a known pervert essentially.
Well, I feel like she's brought that up to me too. Like it's been a subject before about him. Yeah. Like I don't remember if she asked.
She told me that I guess he had been molested or raped when he was younger.
Yeah. I don't know. And like, I feel like I have no memory going back that far, right? Like the guy could walk past me tomorrow. I wouldn't even know who he was.
I would.
Yeah. I just feel like
I stayed with mom. Like, important to know, like, you know, anybody thinking about our stories, I stayed with mom, like, obviously a lot more back then. And I remember him, like, I was, but again, here's the thing is, like, I don't want to, like, for one, there's no blame on him.
Yeah.
If I saw the guy right now, I'd give him a fucking hug.
Yeah.
Because, and this is important to note for anybody viewing any kind of situation, is that if somebody is doing something bad or is, like, viewed bad or something like that, or like, they're suffering too. Like, in order for him to do that, he was suffering. Like I said in that story, like, I could feel that dark energy and that confusion off of him. He was suffering.
Yeah. Like, he's not okay.
He's not okay. Like, and that's, if you sit there and blame and point fingers at people, all it does is make it worse.
Oh, 100%.
Like, you have to let go of blame completely. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is like, so now that these things are happening and I feel, and there's other kind of personality energies like taking over my body during these episodes. And that's what, like, that's part of the confusion. Am I to blame? Is that man to blame from when I was younger? Is the other, is this dissociative disorder to blame? Is any of the other traumas in my life to blame? Like, is the circumstances of that individual event to blame? Like, no. The fact is that if you stay in a state of blame in itself is a negative state. Yeah. So you're just putting yourself in a negative spot, whether it's me blaming myself or someone else blaming me. Yeah. There should be no blame. And I eventually came to that through contemplation and just separated blame from responsibility. I take responsibility for what happened in my actions and who I am, but the blame needs to be put aside.
Yeah. Well, I think it ties too into like the open and closed-minded thing as well, because, you know, when people view those sorts of things or people who do things like that, they're too closed-minded to do anything but blame.
Yeah, and often it's subconscious. It's like they don't even really know what they're doing because they're just not at that level of self-awareness yet.
Yeah, I think it just all is such a big, I don't know, everything's just so one, you know, awareness, consciousness, the blame, all that stuff. It's just like the more that you become open and with all of those things, everything just gets better. Yeah. Really.
Yeah, I got a lot of the I'm not judging, but I'm judging type shit, where it's like they'll straight up say to you that they're not judging, but like, just by their actions,
and that's about the event that you had. You mean like what you've done most recently about people?
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I found out through hypnotherapy. And
so hypnotherapy was one of the really strong things that you've done so far.
Yeah,
doesn't mean the other people aren't good too, I guess.
I'm just like, I feel like it was a great thing to go do. Yeah. Because I kind of like knew something was up. So it's like, I'm going to go check my memory box there. I don't know if it would be useful for someone to go to on a monthly basis is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Like, I don't know, like it's in my back pocket of healers now, but it's just not one of the ones that I bring out all the time, I would say.
That's another thing is, I wonder how many are monthly? I mean, like, I think it just depends.
I think psychotherapy is great monthly.
Yeah, I guess.
For anyone.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Like the stigma around that in itself needs to also be put aside, in my opinion. Like, I feel like a lot of people need a therapist or something, but they just don't, they just need someone to talk to. Yeah. But they don't go do it. So either the talking never gets done, or a lot of times it'll just come out in other ways. Things that need to come out will just come out in ways like maybe putting that on your partner or putting that on your friends or things like that. Yeah. And almost every time I go, when I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm pretty good, I don't really need to go. Yeah. But then all sorts of shit comes up. In good ways, like in very positive ways for things to work on and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, a lot of the people that I've seen too say like, normally I go to people when I'm in like a shithole state. I'm like, I'm fucked. Life sucks. This is garbage. I need to go see somebody. And like, that's normally what I do with energy healing and like pretty much anything. And every time I go though, those people will say like, you got to come back when you're feeling good. Don't just do it when you're bad, right? And I find that Like I get into this like super crazy health thing. I feel really good. And then boom, I fall off the train for a couple months, feel like shit, go blast through things again. And, yeah, actually last time, to be fair, I thought I was feeling really good too. Well, kind of like you just said, I thought I was feeling good and I went and had a reading done and it was like, I wasn't feeling good. So like, it was still really good though, because I actually thought I was in this like really good place. I thought I had everything figured out and like, I didn't at all. This other stuff come up. And like, I think that's the other thing is like, are you ever good? Well, I just think it's like you're constantly working on yourself. And like, as you take the next levels above to like the next step of awareness or consciousness or any of these things, there's just constantly more to work on.
Yeah, I think there's definitely always more to work on. I think the question as to whether you're good or not obviously depends on your definition of good.
Yeah.
But I think also is really big on your awareness. So for example, a lot of the things that are coming out of this, I'll explain like the energetic side of it in a second, because out of all the healers I went to, the most applicable, believe it or not, tangible, I would say, was the energy readings. And that's weird to say, use the word tangible with energy readings for some people listening, maybe.
Dude, what is, can you explain tangible?
Like, how do you explain tangible? Like something tangible means something solid. Like that you can like grab onto, or like for me, like in this instance, like tangible information.
Yeah.
Reliable, like solid information. Something that I could actually, like everything else, like a psychotherapist is kind of like, oh yeah, this is what you have. And that's kind of the gist of it. They helped me explore it. And we went through like from being born, even before that, like generational, I went to some specialists in multi-generational traumas, right up through my whole childhood, teenage, right up to where we are now. So we explored it and that helped me understand things. So understand what dissociative disorder is, what the other personality is and how it was formed and why.
Yeah.
But they can't give me any like markers on my healing process, because like, what are they going to do? Give me a bunch of fucking tests and be like, oh, you're sane now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it doesn't, it wasn't tangible. Whereas the energy stuff, they can feel what's going on like right now. So I can base that as markers for my healing. So I went in and it was pretty fucked up. And then I go in next time, it's a little better. And then,
you can kind of like monitor it yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So that's what I was getting at, is that with awareness, like if you get that, for example, okay, this is getting into some other stuff, but we'll go down the energy path since we're there. Since this happened, this blowout recently with this latest episode, I've been able to feel more, like in a energetic sense.
Yeah.
Like very sensitive. And I don't know, I think it's a combination of like this massive event, a little bit of like deeper self-understanding, and also my daily practices has changed a lot.
Yeah.
I meditate now like anywhere from half hour to 2 hours a day, yoga every day. Doing like during the week, I still go to other yoga classes and meditation classes.
Yeah.
I'm doing and you might do this with me, is the spiritual kind of energy workshop. And I might even go do craniosacral, which is actually a certified course, like an RMT now, and you can practice in a clinic. So yeah, it's starting to, like, the energy stuff is really starting to enter society in a way that is more believable.
Yeah.
And like even people who I know who don't really believe in it go to it and like feel differences. They can't explain it, but they feel it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, I just feel like you can't not believe it once you do it, because because in the cranial, it's also like an energy readings in some way, but they also explain to you, like she pulls stuff out and explains to you things too, right? Like about your life.
No, not really.
No, she doesn't.
So maybe a little bit. Like she might explain some generic stuff, and she can explain what she feels, but it's not as much information as Caroline.
Okay.
Caroline's our energy reader for people listening.
But similar, I guess.
Yeah, like she can, like if you go sit down in front of her, she can feel your frustration. She can feel your like whatever vibes are coming off you.
But you'd get it, like you'd get enough out of that to believe, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like I know Caroline's is really in depth, and it's like the first time I went there, I was so skeptical. I was like, it was my naturopath's mom, and he referred me to her, and I was just like, man, this guy's just trying to get his mom some money. And I'm like literally so skeptical,
That's
man.
so funny thinking of Caroline now.
I know. I'm sitting there and I'm just like, man, he's like, yeah, you should go see my mom. I'm like, figures. Like, okay, I'll go see your mom. And like, I paid for it beforehand and it was downtown. I remember this like one of my worst days ever. I was like, no, I'm not going to make it downtown. This is just dumb shit, blah, blah, blah. And like somehow, I don't even remember how, but I made it there that day. And like, I remember her doing a reading and I had no idea what this was even about. He didn't even really explain it. He said, you should just see her. And I went and yeah, like you lay there on the table. She says, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know. And does her ordeal. You lay down. She just touches your shoulder, feet, or knees and writes down things on paper. And also does a diagram of like your energy. And after, like, she had this huge notepad of like all this stuff and started talking about it. And I also thought that maybe because I've been seeing my naturopath for so long, I'm like, he's just going to send her my file. So she's going to know all this stuff about me. And I'm like, okay, like sweet. And then, but she just brought up so much stuff that like either I had never even talked to anybody about or stuff that was just, it was like, I was crying. I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, this is out of control. And like, after that, like, you just can't not believe. Like with somebody, like, how does somebody bring up something that you've never even said to anybody or like feelings that you couldn't even explain in yourself, but like now you know.
Feel them. It's like the same thing when I come out and have an impression after an episode. It's like, I knew them, but then it takes a while to like explain them kind of. She gives you that explanation.
Okay.
Almost. But yeah, no, it is like for someone who hasn't experienced it, if you find a good one,
yeah, true. That's the other thing.
There's no choice to believe it or not.
Yeah, it's really not.
You'll go in there and you'll be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I've actually asked Caroline because like the people have asked, and when I tell about my experiences with her, there's certain people who would like to see, but she's far away. And I've asked her, like, is there anybody else that I can refer people to locally that actually practice regularly? And she's like, you won't really, everyone's so different. It's hard to find, right? She said, nobody practices the same way that I do, but you might be able to find some people close, but had nobody to refer.
Yeah. This spiritual course, this energy course that you and I might do, that's someone who she'd worked with in the past, but she's starting to introduce me to terms of the different types of.
Yeah. There's so many different things.
Like a lot of it's based on perception. I feel like everyone perceives, like I've been to readers who perceive things like they're like feeling your energy and they feel like it's slippery or like it's like textures almost.
Yeah.
Like fine. Or like, yeah, they describe it in textures. Whereas like, yeah, Caroline's is very just like a knowing, like and she actually described it to me, and it's the same way that I accept energy. So back to all this, like basically weird things started happening like after this blowout, not weird things, cause I've always been into the intuitive side of life and whatnot. But, like I think it was a mix of everything, like being so vulnerable after all that happened, the self-knowledge that I gained and the daily practices that I'm doing that kind of just started opening things up a lot more in like the intuition and energetic realm. And yeah, like I was able to drop really deeply into meditations. During a cranio session, in one of them, I dropped so deep that I found this sense of peace almost. Yeah. Like complete relaxation and calmness that lasted like untouched by anything else, that any dramatic shit or shit that would normally piss me off or whatever. Yeah. Completely untouched by all that stuff. Lasted for like 30 hours straight. Yeah. Like what was explained in the
surrender experiment.
The surrender experiment. I mean, obviously his lasted longer, but so that was pretty cool, like intuitive experiences where, the easiest example is like I walked into the forest with Ryder, my dog. And, and he usually like, he's aggressive. If there's a dog, I mean, he's not, but like if
he's a killer.
Oh, if only everyone knew, but, so only when a dog's walking towards me, Ryder like gets defensive. So I'm always on the lookout for other dogs. So we walk into this park and, there's like, I don't know, 300 meters of forest. And then there's like a big field. So you can't see all of it by any means. Like there's no way you can see through the whole thing. So I'm at one far edge and I'm scanning, looking for people or dogs because I always do. And then I kind of just like felt like I just closed my eyes, took a breath and immediately looked up to my left in a very distinct direction and just like had this like knowing. It was just like the impression. It's almost like something's just been like draped over and it's just soaked in. And if you think about it logically, it'll disappear. It has to just be felt. So, and I immediately knew that about, roughly this far away, there's people there with a dog. And then I made my way through the forest and eventually got to the edge of the field. And I look across in the exact spot that my intuition told me there was people there with a dog. And I've been able to use that for all sorts of other things. And all, just like so many weird things. Like I've been dropping into meditations and just like having visions, like things that I've never really done before. And it's all just like, I don't know, some people might relate to this where you walk into a room and you immediately kind of know the vibes you're getting off people. Like if someone's a threat, if someone's, doesn't like you, or if someone's going to be good and friendly and you just vibe with them and you like them. Like now it's like heightened. I feel like I'm still like at the lower state where like I go into a room and I can feel those things, but I maybe don't always know who it's coming from. I'm kind of like looking around like, who's the asshole? Maybe like not exactly, it's
but
you.
Fuck. It's just me. I'm blaming.
I'm feeling myself.
Literally. No, but like, I get that. And I can usually tell and like feel it out, but, it's one of those things that obviously just takes practice and time, or in your case, who knows, maybe even you had like, maybe a lot of energy was freed up when you went through that, hypno thing, right? Because you started feeling it a lot after.
That true.
Maybe like there was a big buildup of like that you were holding that for so long that boom, now you're just like moving.
Yeah.
So
it's just like moving.
So I don't know. There's so many different things you never really know for sure, but
yeah, I mean, the way I see it is also kind of the integration process, I think, brings some of that, because the other personality and like, that's like some of the movies are a bit, like exaggerated, but that, like about multiple personality stuff, because like there's some movies about it out there, where like if someone has multiple personalities.
They're not documentaries. They're like,
there might be some, I don't know, but there's like normal movies too.
Well, like that one about the killer guy.
Yeah. And he has like his eye, like it can change your eye color. Like it can full on like change physical aspects of your body. Like that's how powerful the multiple personality thing is. And the belief, I wouldn't even call it a belief. Like it's not a belief. Like it's not like I'm sitting here believing that I'm also another person. It's not, it's just, it really is just like what it sounds like. But yeah, like it, and Janine, like my psychotherapist, she says like the porous thing, like it makes you almost like porous.
Yeah.
And then it almost like it gives you more access to that realm of being able to do things. Like I've never ran 20 miles or 25 miles in my fucking life. I can't, like I couldn't do that at that time. And I did it in bare feet in the rain over rocks and shit. Like that's, I don't know, like other things, like the fights. I guess like, there's a lot of fights, and some of them were with up to like 7 guys. If 7 dudes walk through that door right now, I don't know if two of us could do anything about it.
I'd be out of here, dude. You'd get your ass kicked. I'll be out the window.
but in that state, that it would walk in. Sometimes even I would feel pulled. Like I would, like the whole video game thing would happen where I'd be like thrown into the back. Yeah. And I'd be scared shitless. Like when Mitchell Lore got sucker punched with brass knuckles and it like shattered his jaw. Like, dude, if that was 2 inches higher, it could have killed him.
Oh, 100%.
Like could have done serious brain damage. And I was scared.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't not scared. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, and there was like that switch. And some people who have been there at the time of it happening have seen it and even described it themselves as a switch. It's like, okay, time to go. Boom, throws me in the back. And that day I even remember it's like someone pulled my shirt. Like I remember my head going back and just like threw my body in the middle of this ring.
Yeah.
And there must have been like 20 dudes or more surrounding us. And then Mitch Lore and this other guy fighting in the middle. And like 5 of us versus like their whole group. And I just like my body just pulled me in and it just did its thing. It's like I was numb. Like I couldn't feel anything, couldn't feel pain, couldn't. And it was just confidently just ding, 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 ding. Everybody who would come near.
It's like you turn into a subconscious Jackie Chan or something. Hey.
Oh, another one is like hockey, dude. You saw like, so it did happen a lot when I was sober too. Definitely not.
I think it's just that fear factor. Maybe as soon as the fear hits strong enough, it's like, boom, you got to get out.
The 3 triggers, the main trigger is stress.
Okay.
The main trigger is actually stress.
Well, I mean, I feel like fear is pretty stressful. Dude, when I get scared, I'm so stressed. I'm like, fuck.
No, I know that too. But
I know.
The second one is actually, this is what you're getting at, is physical confrontation.
Okay.
It's the feeling of a threat.
Yeah.
It could even trigger it in other feelings of threats, like even emotional or social threat or something too.
Yeah.
And then the third one, which is kind of a trigger, but more of an associate, like I said, how it like makes like alcohol makes me more porous and makes those triggers more willing to like trigger something.
Yeah.
So yeah, like stress could be anything. Like this last episode that happened recently, like that was the most stressful week of my life. I thought we were going to have to shut down the business. I was freaking out. I had been working 14 to 16 hour days for like 2 months straight. Like and I hadn't been in nature in God knows how long. I was like eating like shit, like all that stuff, just like all this stress on myself. And then that was one of the major contributors to that as well. So yeah. And like hockey too, man. Like I remember, and like, I think this one was on video actually. I remember I would be so stressed out before a game, like anxious and stressed because everybody would expect me to fight. Yeah. So I got caught up in this ring in high school where it was like this loop where it's like, the more you fight, the more you fight. Yeah. Because it's like this, people want to see it. It's entertainment. So they egg it on. Yeah. And then it's like a power fight for power, like from other people, from other schools or hockey teams, like rivalries and all this shit. Yeah. And I mean, I was playing the game, like I was in it, and and to some degree, sometimes the other personality like enjoys it, like likes it to some degree. Maybe my personality does a little bit too. But yeah, like toward the end there, it would get so stressful that it would build up, and I'd just be an anxious case before I even got onto the ice. And as soon as someone's glove like hit my cage, boom, switch, blackout. I would just like this one. I remember I had like a referee on my back, and I'm skating down the ice and just beat the shit out of a few guys. And then one of the guys would skate by and try to mouth me off, and I'd reach and just grab him by the cage and pull him in too. And they'd just be like, oh, and then I'd be screaming like hysterically, like at the top of my lungs. And then I'd see it later in a video, be like, holy fuck, I didn't know I was screaming.
Just yelling the whole time.
Yeah. Like wailing, like, yeah. Like a not normal.
Well, see, I get the opposite where like, I would get the same feeling going into the rink and like all that kind of shit. Cause like we were just brutal in hockey, like always, I mean, not necessarily always fighting for me, but slashing people and punching, like I was like the cheap shot guy. Yeah. And, but even always like when we're doing things or when I get into a confrontation like that, instantly, like I just snap into like, I don't even know. All of a sudden I'm like, I don't go into it. I go the other way, like as fast as I can.
Yeah.
And it's like where you dive in, you know what happens? It's like I turn around and I'm all of a sudden I'm like 5 kilometers back there and I don't even know how I got there so fast. I'm just like, where is everybody?
I've been in those situations. We'll be standing. I remember doing something stupid when we were younger. We were like in our teenage years and we were all standing on a road. Maybe it was a party or something. There's like 4 or 5 of us friends and like some of your friends, and something happened. And like, it was briefly scary.
Yeah.
But like, we all waited it out just to see if like, I don't know, cops are going to come or something. And I remember turning around and looking, and you're like a mile back already, just running like a fucking antelope.
Yeah, man, I'm out of there. I'm like, fuck this shit. So fast. I'm going back to get the army to come back, dude. Yeah.
But yeah, and it, so anyways, I went to Caroline, and yeah, like she's our energy reader. And one of the biggest things that she pulled out for me was that my energy is it's like it has little sensors like all around it. And I would assume that yours probably do too. And that's from feeling like we're under threat all the time, like throughout our childhood. So we just have the like, we're really, really sensitive to other people's energy and picking up cues and things like that. So yeah, like that's one of the things. And then it started like, I didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
So when I walk into rooms, even still, I don't really know how to handle it. So I like the past couple months, I've been trying to
figure that all out.
Yeah. And like, almost like I need more time by myself because it latches on to me. Like if someone else is frustrated, then it makes me frustrated, and then like holds that. And then I'm taking on everybody's energy and emotion as burdens when I don't need to be, but in a much more intense way than I ever felt.
Yeah. So now you have to really learn how to control it. And
like I'm forced to, otherwise I feel like I can't even go in public. And like you know, when you walk into a room, you get those feelings. Well, like I was in a meditation, and all of a sudden it's like I could feel my building. Yeah. Like I could feel the people on my floor and above me and below me, like anyone around me, the noises and frequencies coming from the city, the fact that I'm 10 floors off the ground, it all just like, and then I'm just anxious, and then I'm just like freaking out, and then I'm all off. Yeah. So for me, nature's huge. Yeah. Like just the grounding frequencies from the earth is huge.
Hearing like real calming nature sounds.
Yeah. For me. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right now, like I do a lot of my meditations in the shower because it drains out everyone else's shit. Yeah. Like, because like right now, like living closer to the city, it's still like noise.
Yeah, that's true. I couldn't, I don't have much experience living in the city.
Well, I used to do it growing up, like at Dwayne's, because God knows anybody walks into your room there all the time, whenever they want. Yeah. So I would do it in the shower because then no one bothers you. Yeah. And then you can't hear, you're not interrupted by anybody talking and shit. Yeah,
exactly.
Knocking on your door. But
drowns it out. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much most of the story. I don't know. Is there anything else that beyond I know lately it's just been a lot to do with kind of, I guess figuring all that stuff out. And I know the energy thing's been huge. That's what we've been talking about a lot. And that's kind of like, it seems like the direction you're going now, since things have sort of settled, you're kind of moving towards the energy side of things. And that's what's like, I mean, I guess that's just become most powerful from it now. Like that's what, I don't know if bothering you, but something that needs to be figured out next. Because like when I went for my energy reading after all this happened and I went to see Caroline, I was in like super rough shape. It's like less than a week or so after it happened. And I was just like super rough, still like kind of distraught. And I lay down and I told her and whatnot. And she felt when I was awake, like I was still in like I was feeling vulnerable. I was feeling threatened still. And she felt what happens is it's like my energy. It's like when it's feeling threatened, it separates and it throws what she feels and calls little Jaymie in like my higher chakra, like above my head, and puts a barrier there. And then he just stays there. And then
what she calls like protector Jaymie, which is like a much more energetic, powerful, aggressive, raw, very, very raw emotion. That stays here. And that's the personality that I become. And that really helped me. She said it was almost like, imagine a ball of yarn mixed with fine silk. And then all of a sudden you just pull the fine silk and that goes up here. Yeah. And then you're left with this tangled ass ball of super rough yarn or string or something. Yeah. So that was another thing that was helpful, because she can, and then the other thing that was important is she said that as I fell asleep, it all came back down and came together again. Yeah. So they're supposed to be together. Yeah. That's the integration process. Yeah. So like what happened, the other thing, what happened when I was younger, it's stabilized, like it'll stabilize when it comes together. When I'm aligned and grounded, it stabilizes. Yeah. And then I'm just fully me. Yeah. You're good to go. Yeah. And so it, like the mental mechanism was created when I was a little boy, but the reason why, like at that time, I probably didn't have all the shit that I have now, or I'm healing from now. It came from all these other things. Like it like just one after the next. Yeah. So like that happens. And then, living with dad, I honestly think was probably one of the biggest contributors to the complex PTSD, because it's like a constant threat. Yeah. Like even like if you talk to any of our friends, like Connor describes it as like a war zone back in the day. It was fucked. Like there's no safe place. No. Even to some degree, even from ourselves and each other. Yeah. Yeah. Like a lot of fighting, like Dwayne would come home screaming and stressed. Even if he didn't talk, it was still just like, you're almost like this, just like waiting for something to happen. And that like, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but I never thought of it as a big deal either, really. It like obviously was fucking annoying. And I was just like, man, like, holy shit. But like, you're just used to it. And like, you grow up like that, and that's just like your life. And I don't know, you kind of just, it was weird because at the same time, he really built that resilience into us, but we were really just like getting that from countering him. You know what I mean? So it's like, but then once you drop him, like, once we moved out and all those things, it was like, it's a really, really good skill like that we have for life. But I never until recently even thought that affected me. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, whatever. It was nothing. But like realistically, it was a lot. It was like it was insanely stressful. Yeah. Like always, I was like, just remember like dreading, like, and it was just, like you said, really hard to be alone and like have your space. It's like, we'd leave. Like he'd come home from work and we'd either lock ourselves in our rooms. I remember being in my room, and like, if he just got home, I'd be in my room and I'd like try to make it to your room, but then he'd come through the door and I'd quickly just fucking retreat into my room and be like, fuck, I wanted to get to Shelby's room and now I'm stuck here. I can't leave. Yeah. Like, we would hide a lot. Yeah. We would hide, wouldn't want to open our doors, even take off on our bikes, or once we had licenses, just like anything we could do to be away during that time period when he arrived home. Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds really bad, but like he'd probably listen to this and be really upset, but not a bad dad. No. It's just like, I think it's like, I don't even think he was really aware of, at that point in his life. I mean, the other thing you have to understand is that he was a single dad for like most of this, right? And like ran his own business, which is super stressful. Yeah, had his own business, and he was doing all these things, raising 2 kids, and he was out there making the money, and he was putting us through all these things. Like we got to play hockey, we had dirt bikes, like boat, house on the lake. We had all these things, but that wasn't really like what we wanted. Was that connection with our parent. The connection was lost a little bit due to all these other things. Like he would drop us off at school in the morning, but we wouldn't see him till late at night. Had babysitter, and like it was just a lot of time spent alone, and like 2 kids left in the house. We just ruined shit. Oh yeah, we just made bombs and fucking broke shit. And oh yeah, so that shit on fire. Yeah, it's we definitely had an amazing childhood, but it was it's just when you look back now and like analyze it, you can see like it's cool to look back and piece and be able to like piece together how it affected us in certain ways, and
just so now we can get over that and heal it and understand it instead of just like living blindly.
Yeah. And to be honest, like, I don't know, I wonder sometimes is like, would I do the same to my kid? Like, would I do it all over again? Yeah. I think there's definitely things you could tweak, but at the same time, I can't help but be proud of who we are because of the things that made us that way and gave us that resilience. And I'm very grateful that we were raised and that everything that happened to us.
Yeah, that's the other big thing too, is like, I've never wished that anything was different. I don't look back and like, oh, I wish fucking he was this angel dad who literally bought us everything and we lived in a mansion and we were like that classic family that sat there and had dinner together every night and then watched movies and shit. Like, I don't know, like it was good. It was hectic. It was like...
It was fun.
There was a lot of shit.
A lot of fun, a lot of stress. I just think that people don't know what happened behind closed doors, I guess. Not that anything bad did. Like, you know what I mean? No. But it's just, again, it's that little bit of stress or that like mediocre level of stress that happens for 19 years. And then it has some effect. Yeah. And I never really... Again, I always just figure like that's normal. Some people have it worse, but like some people don't. And then going and talking to a therapist, I started to realize that like it was normal because it was normal to us, but like to other people, that's not always the case. No, for sure. And then like that going back and forth between two parents, you know, and then like, like spending time with mom and, you know, she would move a lot too, different, like all the time, different places, sometimes have no place to go. Like I remember sometimes I'd come to dad's, back to dad's, and I would just cry and just watch her drive away because I knew that I didn't know where she was going. Because that day she scrounged as much money as she could and we would go to the pool or something. And I remember sitting there, we'd choose what activity we could do. And we could only do one because we only had $12 to get into the pool or something. And again, like even that sounds privileged.
At least you made it to the pool.
Yeah, but like I don't know, man. I don't know where she was going after. I didn't know where she was sleeping. If she's sleeping in her fucking car, if she's like gonna go, I don't know, bum at some like dude's house. Like I don't know. Like it was always. I think that created a very protective instinct in me because the trigger for the dissociative disorder is actually highest. Not only when I feel threatened, but when I feel that you or mom are feeling threatened. Too, specifically the two of you. So yeah, no, it's and then that kind of like the whole that, and then like the alcoholic stuff during that stage. And then leading for me, like right into fights. Yeah. Like when I was hit 13, lots of fighting. If you broke it down by how many people, it would relate to getting in a fight every other week for like 3 years straight. So it was very consistent. Some stuff like, I don't know, just like dumb shit, like stupid little like gang violence stuff around like locally, like having a fucking gun pointed at your face and shit. Like not a lot of, I don't know, just like packed on. Over and over and over again. And then all those things in certain ways morphed it, worsened it, and then created all the things that happen. But
it's a lot going on.
I wanted to touch briefly on the multiple personality thing.
Oh, okay.
Because some people think that it has to be severe. Like, I don't think that I'm some old woman or something. You know what I mean? It can actually be very similar. So that's why, unless someone's really perceptive, even if they saw the switch, they might not even know that. They might still think it's me. But people who are close to me, like, I don't know if you've seen it. Kevin mentioned seeing it that night in Whistler.
I don't remember that, but
Connor has seen it, Steven, and they all describe it as like a switch. Something changes in me. And then that.
I feel like I've definitely seen it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been present for sure.
Oh yeah.
So it like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird to think about. The way I think about it is like,
I never really thought that it had to be a major difference until you said that. I just
feel like some people think it is as soon as you use the term multiple personality.
Yeah, I think maybe like you were talking about the movies before, it might make it seem that way because like they usually make it pretty extreme.
Yeah,
in some of those films.
Those are like extreme because they actually like the therapists consider. My case is weird because a lot of people actually deal with this day to day. Like they don't have triggers; it'll just kind of happen.
Yeah.
I'm super lucky that that I kind of backed my triggers into a corner. I have very, very specific triggers. So that's
it's not like a daily occurrence, which is nice.
Yeah, but when it does occur,
it's more extreme.
I have the multiple, I have like, it's like fairly severe when it does occur.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of a rare, weird case, but yeah. I mean, some like they said, Janine even said, and so did the other guy, like it was severe enough that when I explained it to the one guy who specialized in it, he called me right away at 9:00 at night just to make sure I was like good and got me in like as fast as I could and just made sure that I was like treading lightly because I didn't want anything to set it off.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So he took it. Yeah. Like he took it pretty severe.
Yeah. And even like some of the other people are just, said basically like they were kind of almost like, how are you who you are? Like how do you have a good head on your shoulders? Like, how are you so self-aware kind of thing? Cause I go in there and I straight up say to them, it's like, I'm healing myself. I want you to help me understand me. And I have very in-depth questions for them and all these things. And so they're like, like you're lucky to, most people are alcoholics, in jail, drug addicts. Some kind of like living some really confused, fucked up life.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That guy was probably so concerned was like, how does he know that you're not some dude who's just like out drinking and partying all the time? So like that could have just happened again, like really fast and just as bad, right?
Yeah, true.
Because you pretty much nailed down right away. Like you already kind of knew triggers and things that were going on, but then you thought, okay, fuck, this was bad. And you just already toned all that back to nothing to just be able to figure things out. Whereas a lot of people, if they don't understand, right, they just go back on a piss up the next day.
Yeah. It's pretty. Was there something else? The closed-minded versus open-minded?
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit. Not major. What were we talking about it with?
I think just with being like, for me, that came when like talking to other people about it, that became a thing for me. And it just kind of, I don't know, like this whole experience, I've had some experience with mental illness as far as depression and things like that, like minor anxiety, but just like to the definition of all this stuff going around, like ending the stigma around mental illness. And there's big campaigns that they put on every year and shit, and everyone's all in support of them and stuff. Yet they don't have the open-mindedness, some of them at least, to just be open-minded about it when they're in it. Yeah. Like it's one thing to look at it from afar and be like, I support this, but I just want to touch on that because I think it's important for people to analyze themselves to see if they are being open-minded, because that's super important to, to somebody who might be fragile about it. It might send them for a fucking loop.
Yeah.
And I fear that for people because of things I went through. Like if you were fragile, I don't know, it might lead to suicide or something really bad.
Yeah. So you mean like your friend or whatever to be lit, like if someone's going through something and you're like you're looking from the outside, but when they're going through it, and they reach out to you or say something to you, then to be open-minded and listen. And,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Because I feel like, I think the problem is people if someone's going through something really serious and you're not open about it and you kind of just brush it off or play it off or say the wrong thing, it can be very hard on that person. Yeah. Which is, I think, what you're getting to.
Yeah. Like to a point that I never understood until all this happened. And I think I was okay enough to stand back and just be like, it's not, if anybody's doing that, it's not their fault either.
I think it's good because you're so aware that you're not attaching too much to what they say. Whereas like somebody who, and you're also really, like you're just okay being alone, I think. Where some people, like I am too, but I think people who rely on other people for things a lot, then you're going through something like that, and maybe the person you rely on is then not open-minded or just kind of brushes you off, and you're really attached to that person and what they think, then you're fucked.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could, like imagine someone being in a situation where they're in a really, really dark spot, like I was for a little bit, and reaching out to somebody who is the only person in the world that they could ever talk to. And it's, looking at it from a different, like from the outside, looking at that person, you feel like you're in a good mental spot. So it's hard to relate to them, but they're in a really dark spot. Like so dark that again, you can't relate to them. So it's just knowing that you don't really know what someone else is going through.
No.
Like, I don't know, man, maybe someone else has some kind of severe dissociation stuff. It's actually more common than I thought after reaching out and talking to some people about it. I actually know some people who have it. A lot of the similar situations growing up actually. But, it's, if that happened in that specific situation, then I don't know, something really fucking bad could happen.
And just cause like someone's triggers or whatever, like maybe happening too, like for a lot of times I would compare, like when I first started dealing with this kind of stuff or talking to people about mental health or any sort of health, I would like really compare people's stories and be like, oh, well, that person's like maybe isn't as bad as mine, or like, oh, mine's worse than that. They're only doing this, or that person's way worse than me. But just because like maybe someone just had like a minor event happen in their life, it just like, it doesn't matter. It could be just as bad for them as someone who went through like 20 years of absolute shit, and maybe they just had one bad thing happen. It can be just as bad. It doesn't matter. And like, I think a lot of times I was like, oh, well, buddy's pretty mild, but like, you never know how that guy's feeling. He could be feeling worse than I ever had just from one thing. You don't know that. Yeah.
That's something that you brought up to me recently. And that actually really hit home for me too, because that's so true. And that actually helped me in my judgment of others, and holding, like taking that back and being like, it doesn't matter what that thing is. It still might be the biggest fight of their life.
Yeah. Especially like for us growing up, we had all this shit happening all the time. So like we were growing more resilient every time something happened.
And we have worse shit to compare it to.
Yeah. And like so a lot of things that might happen to me now, I would be like, fuck, I don't give a shit or whatever. But if that happened to somebody who had like, didn't have to deal with a lot of that kind of stuff, that could be like a life ending thing for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's an important thing to be able to, I don't know, see and stay open about.
Yeah. I think like you and I talked about open-mindedness on 3 levels the other day, where, level 1 would be like the openness to even hear somebody, right? Like even just sit there and hear them. That's level 1 of open-mindedness. And level 2 is listening to what they're saying. Like actively listening, not just hearing, but because this is a skill. People don't have this skill. Like listening without intent to reply, listening without your own biases. That's really hard. That's a skill in itself. That's like a prerequisite is maintaining your bias, or at least being able to keep it at bay.
Yeah. Like listening with, I feel like when most people are listening to someone, they're just thinking about what they're going to say next or what they might have to say. It's like fully listening, not worrying about anything about you or what you're going to say or what you're doing. It's just like, it doesn't even matter. It's just
or any like predispositions on that person.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like for me, I find it especially hard because it's like something that's kind of taken control of my body in scenarios and done things that like, I mean, I take responsibility for it, but like that person who might be hearing me, sure, they're hearing me, but they're blaming me at the same time. Yeah. So they're not actually listening because they have this blame and this negativity towards me. So like, that's not true open-mindedness then.
No.
Even though they're there to listen or to hear, they're not there to really listen. And then the third level would be to actively like do something about it. And the way that I can, the best way that I can compare this to is actually veganism. So like, because it's something that people are very close-minded to. So it's like
the whole plant-based stuff.
Yeah. So level 1 would be like, okay, let's hear someone talk about it. Level 2 would be let's listen and let's consider. Let's actually consider it.
Yeah.
And then level 3 would be test it.
Yeah.
Go out there and actually do it and live it so you can experience it for yourself.
Yeah. Try it on for yourself. See if it works. See if it doesn't.
Yeah. So I think that it's important to remember those for people out there who might be dealing with someone in a rough spot.
Yeah, for sure.
And even just in life, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just makes like, that's the skill that I've been, like, I spent a lot of time working on stuff like that with my coach this year. And you noticed it so much. Like, you come into conversations different ways, the way that you talk to people, and it just helps with like literally every relationship. Like every person that you talk to, it's like, even like you just go to the grocery store and you want to buy something, it's like you listen to that person and you actually like engage with them instead of, I guess, like the engaging too, right? If you're just listening and judging, you're not really engaged with that person. You're kind of like barriering them because you don't really want to, like, you're just like, pretty much fuck this guy.
Yeah.
So like it's tough, but like when you actually really listen and then properly engage without just like, I don't know, it makes everything better.
And even taking a moment to think about things.
Yeah, you don't have to like instantly reply. And I think that's I used to get awkward when it was silent. I'm like sitting there like, okay, what the hell? Like, this is weird. But now I don't care. Like, you don't have to say like every single thing that comes to your mind too, right? You can hold back, just say like meaningful things or something that, like, I don't know. It starts to build.
I think that's a big skill too, is actually knowing what not to say.
Yeah, that's another one too. I think there's I guess just like the dialogue and conversation and stuff is like, I don't know. That's a skill to learn for sure.
Yeah,
in every aspect.
Yeah. Well, that's my story.
Well, okay. So now I guess just quickly, like, what are your next, like, from today forward? What are you kind of focusing on? In relation to what we talked about today?
Digging deeper into the energy side of things. So I mentioned a couple things that happened, which I'll use as examples of this. Like you said, that you're kind of still at the surface level or top level. Well, like meditating on it and going deeper into the things that I'm feeling. For one, I want to repeat that it's not a thought. Like, there's no logic behind it. There just isn't. Yeah. So if anybody out there is like thinking about it right now, like thinking about if this energy shit is real or something, it's like you're already not in it. Like, you can only feel it. Yeah. The best way that I can describe it is, I don't know, maybe like vivid dreaming, where you're kind of awake, kind of not. And then you start thinking about it and like kapoof, it disappears. Or like in a vision, like when I've had visions, if you think about it, it disappears. In hypnotherapy, if you start bringing like more logical thought, you can't do that. You just have to bring out whatever the first thing that comes to mind is. Yeah. So there's no logical thought present. It's really just feel. So stepping deeper into that is one of my main focuses. Like right now I can walk in and I can feel someone's energy. Like what Caroline does is she touches someone, she feels their energy. She explains to you what it's doing. And then she explains to you the emotions behind it. And then she explains to you what your body's telling you, like gives you solid information on like, hey, like maybe try this. Right. I can only do step 1. I can only feel, and it's confusing as shit because I don't know step 2 or 3. Yeah. I can feel their energy. I might be able to decipher a little bit of emotion, but I can only feel it. I can't like bring it to words yet. Yeah. So, like I can't bring their emotions to words. So like I feel something and maybe sometimes I'll be like, okay, I need to leave, but I don't know why. Yeah. But, let alone help them, which is like the last step. Yeah. So yeah, for me, digging into that, and I find and being able to like be aligned with myself so that I'm grounded, so that if I don't want to feel other people's shit, then I don't have to, because right now it's really bizarre and it's all over the place. Yeah. Just being able to kind of let that go. Yeah. And then ultimately just, my daily practices. Yeah. Just keep up with all that. Keep up with my daily practices. I feel an urge, not an urge, like a desire, a want, a need to do them now. Yeah. Whereas before I knew they were right, but now, now I've hit a point that I want to do it. It's not like, oh, hey, I should do this more often. You know,
it's
everybody knows
burden.
Meditation is good for you, but no, it's like now it's like I get up and I just want to sit there for 3 hours on the floor. Sounds odd. That and just, spend more time with, like the energy that came out in the dissociated state was more powerful than me.
Yeah.
The things that it could do. Well, I'm trying to integrate and figure out how to consciously use that power for good things.
Yeah.
Instead of
like harness it in other ways.
Because like, if I've been able to do those things and feel the things, like the fact that I could connect with mom the way I did that night, and other bizarre things have happened too that I'm not fully explaining because it's kind of more esoteric for some listeners maybe. But I know that it's there now.
Yeah.
And now
if you could like kind of use it on demand in good ways that you wanted to do with, that would be pretty sweet. Yeah.
So that's, for me on my journey, that's my next step. And also just, I don't know. I think I after going through it all, it's given me some new perspective. So I'm happy to be here and sharing because I think that's super important.
Yeah.
And again, I find it my responsibility to get to the point of being able to help through healing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is honestly just also talking about it and, you know, letting people know that, like for me, I was super confused. I didn't know anyone else who could understand me.
Yeah.
The closest guy was Mac actually. And he is like hardcore bipolar.
Yeah.
And same thing where he feels like he's not in control of his body because the emotions like rushing through his head and change his actions.
Yeah.
Right. Not very like different, definitely very different, but similar enough that like, I felt like I could give him a fucking hug. I was like, holy fuck. I was like, finally, I found someone who knows.
I think it's always like that too. Like as soon as, it's kind of funny. Like I feel like the conversation usually goes two ways when you bring like, I don't know, you meet new people or something and like, we're really open. I'll say anything. I don't care like about my life. Right. And sometimes you just splurge your shit out and people are like, holy fuck. Like they don't even know what to say. And then there's that one person that's like, oh my God, like I've gone through that kind of shit, blah, blah, blah. And like, you just make those like instant connections because they feel like, they just felt, you know, they feel understood and like someone that's been through the same thing. And like, that's super powerful for people. And
I don't know. Like, is that, that's one of my contemplations recently is that something to do? I think the reason I'm feeling this is because I feel like other people don't do that to me. And maybe it's because they don't like me or something or don't want to be my friend or something. But like, I'm fucking open book, man. I'll go for dinner with someone and I'll get as deep as I can possibly go. And I would love to, I'm just open. It's not like I'm trying to, but it's just what comes out.
I think it's hard and
it flows.
And like the more you kind of have those conversations, you can kind of maybe feel out like what certain people can handle. Cause I don't know, sometimes it's like just a lot for people to, try and I guess like make sense of or understand, or if they haven't been through it, they're just kind of like, holy shit, what the hell is this guy talking about? It's a lot to, I don't know, figure out. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like I know a lot of people who will say you shouldn't do that. Like, don't just blow out all your fucking shit to someone right away. But like,
I mean, I definitely try not to do all of it at once. But
I don't go crazy.
Like a little, like for example, the topic of like, I don't know, like the alcoholism growing up.
Yeah.
Like that to me is like a table topic. Not to bring up, but not like I'm just like, oh, hey, like blah, 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 did this when I was younger.
Yeah.
I just mean that like, if it came into the flow of conversation, it would be open ground.
Yeah. I think too, it's like, it just depends. Again, it just goes back to like how you're conversing with it. Like if you're going to just go into conversation, start throwing shit at people, trying to like, I don't know. It's like you're trying to be the center of attention or trying to like, you know, people will do that where they just keep like, oh, well, I did this, it's way worse. I did this, it's way worse. Every time someone says something, they're like, oh, well, I did this. Oh, well, this. So it's just like, but yeah, being in flow and like having a real dialogue about it is like, in my opinion, the way to do it. Obviously, it's just like,
I just want to look, I'm just interested. Like I'm open like that because I'd like other people to converse with me like that because I'd want to know about them.
And I like hearing that. Yeah. Like you want to hear that stuff about people. That's how you learn things.
That's how you bond.
Yeah, like real connection.
Yeah, like what else do you do? You just like, otherwise it's all, I
just get bored when you're kind of sitting there and people are like, oh yeah, like, did you see fucking...
It's either drama or bullshit, like kind of happenings.
Shit about the news or something you saw on Instagram or whatever. It's like, man, like...
Or even like, I mean, a next level of good conversation is like theoretical philosophy or something like that, where you're talking about just general life stuff.
The cosmic secret, bro.
But then that kind of gets to a point where it's like, okay, you can talk about that with someone all you want, but you still don't know them.
No.
And that's why I think that's why I'm open about my past.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but yeah, that is something that I'm working on, because I don't know whether I should be like, I don't know. Sometimes I think like, okay, no one else is doing this at this party. Should I close up too? But then I'm like, is that who I am?
Yeah, I think
maybe I just don't belong at this party.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I don't know. And like, I feel like I learn every time I have a different conversation, right? Like sometimes I definitely come in a little hot and I'm just like, okay, that's a little much right now, but you gauge it. And like, I don't know, the more you hang out with certain people or meet new people and you start to kind of tell, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just another one of those things to kind of play with and learn.
But yeah, that's where I'm heading right now with the whole
energy stuff
and daily practices and just sharing and being there for people.
Okay. That's awesome. It was super cool to hear the story. I know I've obviously heard most of the stuff before, but definitely tough. Well, not a little tough for me to try and act as a listener and like pretend like I don't know certain things so that I can get information for everybody else. But yeah, no, I think it's super powerful. There's a lot of good information. And if anybody who is listening wants to reach out, or has any questions about it, like reach out, ask us, especially about any of the practitioners and people that we talked a lot about. Like,
especially if anybody's local that might want recommendations, because, you know, you've spent 30 grand. I've probably spent 10.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past 2 months, let alone years prior. So like, don't go spending all your money. We might be able to limit.
We've got a pretty good list of like some of the good practitioners and people out there in like all of the kind of holistic field. I would say there's a lot of really good people we know. And books too. I'll note the Surrender Experiment, and I don't know. I think that's pretty much the only one we mentioned, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, any questions, reach out, and
we should throw some book picks on your site, like just like random recommendations.
I have that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Surrender Experiment's on there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I guess I could just say that. It's in the top. It's in the recommended reads right there on the homepage.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, awesome. Thanks for that. And I'm sure you'll be back and we'll talk about a lot more crazy shit. So this is just the start.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Thanks for having me for my first unit. And if anybody out there wants to chat at all about any of the stuff that I've been through or whatnot, you know, feel free to get in touch with Shelby and ask for my shit. If you don't know me, and if you do, then by any means necessary. And even like family and friends, like honestly, there's a lot, like there's things I've shared here that the majority of everybody doesn't know. So even family and friends. Yeah.
Well, I'll tag you and put your contact stuff in the show notes and stuff if people want to reach out over email or something.
Yeah, I'll put it in my Instagram bio.
Oh man. Okay. Well, awesome.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you.